Howdy folks, Jambareeqi here. One of my newest patrons, Rachel Zakovitz, made a $10 pledge to my Patreon, which gave them the reward of being able to ask me to review anything at all. They chose the Nutcracker Prince. It's Christmas time. A little girl called Clara has been given a nutcracker by her family friend Uncle Drosselmeyer, who tells the story of its origins. It turns out that the Nutcracker was once Drosselmeyer's nephew, Hans. You see, the evil Mouse Queen transformed him into a nutcracker after he foiled her plans. After performing the curse on Hans with a bite, Hans slipped backwards, knocking a load of pillars. One killed the Mouse Queen, and another crushed her son's tail, who claimed his mother's crown, becoming the Mouse King. At night, Clara goes to look at the Nutcracker in her doll collection. Suddenly, the Mouse King appears, now looking rather vicious, and bent on crushing the Nutcracker. Drosselmeyer then brings all of the dolls to life, who urge the Nutcracker, who has become their prince, to defend them with his army of toy soldiers. So begins the war between the dolls and the Mouse King. This film was a box office flop when it was released, but has gained a cult following from those who grew up with it as children, who insist that it deserves more attention. So let's see if I think the fans are right. Well, I think the strength of this movie is its atmosphere. There's something about the film that feels like a dream a child would have on Christmas night. I think that's what made kids who grew up with it connect with it so much. Even though this movie wasn't part of my childhood, I can imagine a younger me being immersed in this movie's otherworldly whimsy, spellbound by the Christmassy setting and innocent toys. The film's take on the Nutcracker's origins is interesting too. You see, the Mouse Queen cursed a princess with ugliness, and Drosselmeyer found out that a man will have to perform a ridiculous nutcracking ritual while blindfolded to fix everything. No one performs this ritual successfully until Hans gives it a try, so the Mouse Queen turns him into a nutcracker. It's all really silly, and that's why I like it. It has the essence of fairy tale logic, and kids will adore that. But what sets it apart from your average children's animated movie is how willing it is to get a bit dark and scary. The film starts off pretty harmless at first, but once Drosselmeyer's story starts seeping into reality, the tone and atmosphere get more sinister. Drosselmeyer becomes a less comforting presence, not helping Clara as much as he maybe could, putting a lot of responsibility on her and the toys. This is a character we're supposed to trust at first. The vagueness over Drosselmeyer's intentions is fascinatingly creepy, asking us to work out what he may be up to. The Mouse King, now warped by power, has become an almost demonic villain, making him rather unsettling for a kids' movie antagonist. Not to mention, the Mouse King's death is actually quite bloody. I was taken back when I saw all that red on the prince's sword and an actual wound on the Mouse King's chest, because this is supposed to be an innocent Christmas movie. Then, later in the film, Clara is shrunk down and welcomed to the doll kingdom, which is beautiful and heavenly. But once Clara declines their offer for her to stay because she has her own life in the real world, all the toys freeze up and collapse. As if Clara's acknowledgement of reality is destroying the fantasy of her childhood imagination. It's very haunting. Not long after, the Mouse King returns, dying from his stab wound, a crazed look in his eyes. He begins slowly walking towards Clara, who can only throw food at the villain. Holy shit, this is like something out of a horror movie. You could argue that all these dark elements aren't suitable for kids, but all children are different. Some can actually handle this kind of content and appreciate watching a movie that isn't afraid to get scary. Just like adults, children can get a thrill from the adrenaline of fear when being told a story. The Nutcracker himself is charming enough. He seems shy and quiet, but he does adapt to the role of prince over time. It's interesting to hear Kiefer Sutherland voicing a much softer and friendlier kind of character.
Clara?
Yes?
Stay. Be my princess. And rule with me in the land of the dolls forever.
I've actually read some people confess that they grew up having a crush on the Nutcracker, so there's definitely some appeal there. Clara is nice too. She has an endearing attachment to the dolls, determined to protect them from the Mouse King, plus she does cleverly outsmart the villain in one scene. As a character for young audiences to relate to and put themselves in the shoes of, she's a fine lead.
Give me the Nutcracker, now!
No, you can't have him!
Give him to me! I want the Nutcracker!
No, you can't have him!
The toys are lovely too, like the motherly doll Trudy, who brings a maternal warmth to the war, and Pantaloon, an old clockwork soldier who can be quite brave in spite of his age, wonderfully voiced by Peter O'Toole.
I am well versed in the disciplines of war, Prince Nutcracker. No. Why, there isn't a significant battle I haven't studied. Agincourt, Dunsinane, Bosworth Field, to name just a few.
The only toy I didn't enjoy spending time with was Marie. She's always chastising or pressuring the prince, moaning about her predicaments, and seems more interested in handsome men than the story at hand, only stepping in to fight when an enemy messes her dress up. I get what the filmmakers are going for, a new doll who is young and spoiled, but I just find her too annoying.
We're having a crisis and you're talking about some princess? You are the prince of the dolls, aren't you?
Music from the Nutcracker ballet is used, but apparently it's not exactly utilised faithfully, pretty much cut and scattered around the soundtrack. Even as someone who hasn't seen the ballet, I noticed how the music wasn't entirely fitting what was happening sometimes. There's an original song sung by Clare which does stick out as rather random because there's no other musical numbers in the film. It's not a bad song or anything, it's a sweet track about Clare fantasising over a romantic dance, foreshadowing a scene later on. It just seems out of place in a film that's not really a musical.
I'd save this dance for you and hope it lasts forever. So let one star shine through.
The animation is surprisingly good for what it is, remarkably fluid at times even. It is not as sophisticated as a Disney production, but it has personality and mood. I also like that Drosselmeyer's story about the Nutcracker's origins has its own art style, much cartoonier in tone, with lots of humorous energy, asking young audiences to question if it really happened. So yeah, this is a likeable movie. So why didn't it make a splash when released? Well, I think that certain improvements could have been made. For starters, perhaps condense the Nutcracker's origin story down a bit. It's very fun, but I'll admit that it's unnecessarily long, especially in a 70-minute movie. Too much of the film is centred on the war too, and not enough focus is given to a sense of adventure for Clare, saving her magical shrinking experience for near the film's end. Shrinking her less would have also made me less distracted, questioning why Clare can't outmatch the Mouse King in sheer size. Just step on him, Clare! Oh, and Marie should have had her personality toned down a bit, or scrapped altogether as a character. She's just too much, and doesn't contribute enough to the film. I also reckon that the film should have had more songs or no songs at all, because having just one came off as random and out of nowhere. Not to mention, there could have been more appropriate uses for the ballet music, or maybe the movie should have just gone full steam ahead with its own unique score. Changes like these could have tightened the movie up, strengthened the story, and made for a richer overall experience. As it is, it's a cute, charming film that'll engage kids just fine, as long as they don't mind being scared a little too. I'd recommend it to my friends who have children. I just can't find it in myself to say that it's any kind of underrated gem. It's just an okay movie, better than most average kids' films, but not something I think everyone must see right away. I get why kids who grew up with it felt enchanted by it, but I also understand why it wasn't a massive success. I don't think it deserved box office failure at all. It's not a bad movie, but I'm not shocked that it didn't impress audiences and critics on first release too. It needed a bit more work on it in my opinion. Would you like to have the same reward as Rachel and ask me to review anything at all? Well, all you have to do is make a $10 pledge to my Patreon. What is a Patreon? Don't worry, I'll explain. This is my Patreon. It's a site for my fans to make monthly donations to me. Those who donate are called patrons. The money I receive goes towards funding my videos and serves as a supportive income for me. Patrons can donate as much as they want each month and stop donating any time. All donations are greatly appreciated, and in return for their patronage, patrons are given exciting rewards, depending on how much they donate, including their names credited in my main show, access to exclusive videos, and the chance to decide a review on my channel. So yeah, that's my Patreon. Cheerio, folks.